This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 280 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network.
This is Reese Koffler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Fergus, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show. Hi, Reese.
Hi, Philip. How are you?
We don't have Glenn with us today.
I know. It's just you and me.
Just recording on our own.
And there's storms. You have storms and I have storms. So fingers crossed, everybody, that we don't mess up.
And we actually do a show this week, right?
Yeah, exactly. You never know. Yeah.
Well, how are preparations for regionals going?
It is, it's good. It's going to be a really busy week. I started teaching this morning at 7:30 and I just finished about 6:15 tonight. So really busy week here. But it's great. It's so much activity. And this, I think, is the biggest regionals in the U.S. I know there are 580 competitors. Over 1,700 rides. There was a message that came through. They need volunteers. So if you're in the area, they need some volunteers. Help. Yeah, and so we have lots of horses going, and it should be a really fun week. And I hope the weather holds. We're having some. I think a lot of people are having some yucky weather. So it's supposed to rain, but it's not going to rain.
You're going to be fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Well, good luck.
Yeah, it'll
be, to you and your riders and everything.
It should be fun. I get to take just one horse, which is pretty awesome. I get to go spend time with Denali, my special boy.
Oh, nice.
And I look forward to that. It's very rarely that I only take one horse, but I had some horses qualify and one was sold and one is not here with us anymore. So, yeah, so it's actually going to be kind of quiet for me in the sense of riding. Yeah. So I look forward to that, actually.
Dedicate your time to whipping butt.
I know, yeah. But in the night,
riders down the center line and doing it right.
Pretty much, right. And it'll be fun with Denali, just to like hand graze my own horse. And I've somehow, got my sister coming over to groom for me both days. Nice. So that'll be really fun. So it'll be a fun weekend for me and everybody that's showing. And we had, I have to be honest, my voice is a little scratchy because one of my dear friends, Dr. Anna Hitchborn, who has been on the show before, got married over the weekend.
Big wedding?
A big wedding to her now husband, Levi Dunlop. And we had a wonderful, I'm going to be honest, both Travis and I are a little sore from all the dancing we did. I posted the shot on the first horse I rode this morning and thought, ooh, maybe I'll sit the trot.
Cool. So, we tried to pull up a bunch of stuff that's been going on in, dressage world, for the news before we get started with the show. But what will be on the show this week?
Yeah, so we have a great show. Kate Fleming-Kuhn is coming on, and she's going to talk about assessing the dressage horse. And Kate's a dear friend of mine, and we actually taught a clinic in Western Pennsylvania together in the middle of September. And we both gave a lecture, and she happened to give this particular lecture. And I really, really enjoyed listening to her, and I thought it would be fun to have her on the show. So she's going to do a great job with that. So looking forward to that. And
of course, we're gonna do a trainer tip.
I know you and I are.
You and I will team up on this one.
And, Total Saddle Fit trainer tip of the week. Exactly. You and I are going to take care of that.
All right. Well, sounds good. Well,
great.
So why don't you get us started with this news buzz kind of stuff going on?
Absolutely. So, a $100 million North Carolina equestrian resort and showgrounds were formally dedicated over the weekend. Tryon, North Carolina. This is one of the most ambitious, privately funded equestrian resorts and showground development in the world, with over $100 million invested, or 80,000 euros.
80 million euro.
80 million, sorry. Whoops.
It hasn't gone that far, has it?
Yeah. Read my nose wrong. For over the next 2 years, was formally dedicated Sunday against the backdrop of the forested Blue Ridge Mountains. There are 5 arenas with the world-class footing, 500 permanent stabling, which have already been built at the Tryon International Equestrian Center, and another 500 permanent stables and 5 arenas among them. A stadium-style venue with 6,000 seats are scheduled to be built. A 150-room hotel, resort, spa, and an Arnold Palmer designed golf course and other amenities are planned for the site. So
awesome.
Awesome.
This is, this is what they have been trying to do for the past who knows how long in Wellington, but the council continues to create problems for them to be able to do this there. So they decided to just move it to North Carolina, I guess.
Right, and Tryon, and it's a beautiful area. Yeah, and actually, I've been to that area, and I really love that area. So I'm excited for us from here in Lexington. It's about 5 hours actually, so not unrealistic to go there.
It's a lot closer for lots of people coming from the Northeast Coast and stuff, especially Canada and that sort of thing. So
sure,
we wish them luck with this.
Yeah, the weather, I don't know how the weather is there in the winter. It's certainly not Wellington in the winter. So it'll be interesting to see if it's more of a summer venue. I don't know. It doesn't say. But like I said, I'm excited about the venue because it's close for us. So, and I always enjoy, we have a lot of shows here at the horse park, which is wonderful. But there is something nice about sort of getting away with your horses and
almost like camping, right? Or a vacation, a horsey vacation. Right?
Exactly. For us, it's whatever horses are in the trailer are the ones that are going to stay. So that's a nice thing. So.
Well,
so what's the next thing, Philip?
Next up, the IOC Coordination Commission leaves Rio satisfied with the progress. So the International Olympic Committee Coordination Commission declared itself satisfied with preparations for the 2016 Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro after visiting competition venues, including the Deodoro Olympic Park, where the equestrian sports of dressage, eventing, and jumping will be staged. So there was some talk about Rio not being on track, and I think they gave them some objectives to fulfill, and I think maybe they're back on track.
Yeah,
the IOC saying they're satisfied. Looks like it'll be ready 2016. Big Olympic Games, that everybody looks forward to. Not just equestrians, but all the sports all over the world. There's a lot that goes in. There's I don't know how many billions of dollars, but they've got to show that they're completing venues and going to be ready, in a couple of years. So that's good news.
Exactly, it's very good news. And my parents actually were down there for a convention, and my mom saw the venue, and she herself was a little concerned. So that's good to hear that they're meeting their benchmarks.
Well, Mama Kay is concerned. There's a problem.
Yeah, there's a problem. So I'm glad to hear that they're meeting some objectives. That's great. It is. I can only imagine. I'm living through the WEG here and the preparations that had to happen just to have the World Equestrian Games. I can't imagine for the Olympics. So fingers crossed that they're doing that. So, yeah. Well, so what's the next thing?
Well, next up, we had talked about this before. The new style competition, CDI Amateur. They're going to host the first one in the world at the Florida's Global Dressage Festival in January. So that is really cool news.
Yeah, this is great. So one of the things, this has been in discussion for quite a while, but some of the stats are that there's over 16,000 adult amateurs in USDF. So it's huge. So some of the requirements that are listed currently, and these may change, but requirements to compete in a CDI AM classes are riders must be 26 years old. Riders must have no ranking with the FEI World Ranking List at the date of the defined entry. No FEI passport is required for horses competing in their home country, but must be registered with their national federation with the diagram and that type of thing, and valid vaccination certificates. Horses entered in. Yeah, well, that's a big deal because a passport.
It's expensive to get that FEI passport.
And just a pain. I'm lucky. Yeah, it's just a pain. I'm literally lucky that they're processed here in Lexington. So we do them and I literally take the afternoon and drive them over. It's just easier. I literally sit there while they look at it because it's just easier.
Yeah.
So they must follow the same procedures as the CDI classes. They have to undergo the vet check. They have to undergo they have to be in restricted stabling and go through the in-barn inspection. So, but it's exciting. I mean, it's kind of giving
have all the classes: Pre-St. George, I1, Inter A, Inter B, freestyles, everything. You know, for amateurs to be able to experience a CDI competition. You know, where they have to meet requirements of judging and vet checks and, like you said, all that kind of stuff. But not have to compete against the big guns professionals. You know, it's very interesting. It's, I think, you know, if you're a rider that has ridden Pre-St. George in a national class, I think you might notice a difference and be able to appreciate the judging and the different things that go on when you show in a CDI. So that's very cool. And hopefully, along with these shows, there'll be now amateur championship classes and amateur championship shows and even maybe amateur nations. I mean, it's endless, you know, where this could go for non-professional riders. So that's awesome. Sure.
Yeah, fingers crossed this continues to take off like everybody thinks it will. So I love the idea. It's fabulous. So, well, right after this commercial break, we're going to jump into Kate Fleming-Kuhn, and she's going to talk about assessing the dressage horse. I hope you enjoy it.
This week's EasySignsOnline.com spotlight product is their New England Style Farm Signs, their most popular line of signs. New England Style Farm Signs are very durable and designed for long-term outdoor use with no maintenance required, no wood to rot, and no paint to peel. They will outlast the old style painted wood signs by many, many years. They are available in many sizes, shapes, and styles, which makes them the perfect sign for any farm or business. Go online today and go through the EasySignsOnline.com easy step-by-step ordering process to see all the prices and options available. They also offer free, no-obligation sign proofs on all New England-style signs, and you get free shipping as well on all New England-style signs. So replace your old worn-out sign and make a great first impression with a new farm sign from EasySignsOnline.com. And the holidays are right around the corner, so it's a terrific gift idea. I can't think of a better one. Visit EasySignsOnline.com.
It's my pleasure this evening to have my friend Kate Fleming-Kuhn, who we were actually on a Young Rider team together many years ago. And Kate and I did a clinic together a few weeks ago in Pennsylvania, and she gave this great lecture on assessing a dressage horse. So, of course, I asked her to do it for us here on the radio show. Kate, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, and thanks for asking me, Reese.
No, we're really happy to have you on, and this was such a great talk you gave a few weeks ago. So can we jump right in?
Sure. This lecture is really focused on, obviously, as Reese has told you already, assessing the dressage horse. And I think that's pertinent information, both in terms of assessing your long-term partner, but it's also really good if you're looking at a sales horse or you're going to ride a friend's horse that you maybe not met before. And these are some ways to make some evaluations. And the primary way we make evaluations is looking at the horse based on the progressive steps of the training scale, namely rhythm, relaxation, connection, impulsion, straightness, collection. Before riding, it's important to form an initial impression based on the observation of the horse's temperament, evaluation of the horse's conformation. Look at the top line development. Look at the overall proportions of the horse. Look at the balance. Look at the symmetry. If it's a horse you don't know, discuss the history with the normal rider of the horse. Ask pertinent questions like how old is the horse? What's the past training, soundness, fitness level? Ask the rider their perception of the level of training of the horse and the perceived deficiencies of the training or lack thereof. During the ride, start in the warm-up, walk, trot, canter, both directions, using straight, curved lines, school figures, and transitions, and assess during the warm-up. Assess the gaits. How is the purity, the regularity of the rhythm, the relaxation, the quality of the gaits, the suspension, the scope. Assess the acceptance of the aids. Is the horse willing and relaxed in his acceptance of the rider's leg? Is the contact correct, equal in both reins? Does the horse accept the seat? Does the horse accept half halts? Can you regulate the tempo? Can you affect the length of stride? How does the horse respond to the circle of the aids? Is the horse good from front to back and back to front? And what is the quality of the connection? Assess the straightness, namely identify the hollow versus the stiff side, and can you displace the shoulders in order to straighten the horse? Assess the suppleness. Does the horse stretch and allow adjustment of the length of its frame without changing balance or tempo? That's the longitudinal suppleness in the horse. Can you position or bend the horse without change in the flow of the movement or balance? That's looking at the lateral suppleness. Assess the throughness, the quality that allows the horse to move with relaxation and obedience, accepting the forward driving aids, the sideways driving aids, and the restraining aids equally in both directions. This is a key characteristic of a correctly schooled horse. During the work phase, after your warm-up, use the information you gleaned during the warm-up to determine the major areas that need improvement. Be able to identify the problem and the cause. Address the disease and not the symptoms. Choose appropriate exercises to address issues. Exercises must be classical and supported by classical theory. The work should progress logically. The horse must be worked in both directions. Evaluate success as you go and be prepared to go to a simpler exercise. Don't drill an exercise over and over. Incorporate stretching, changes of gait, changes of direction throughout the work. And always keep in mind the regularity of the gaits, the fitness level of the horse, the temperament, and the education level of the horse. Once you've worked the horse, make assessments during the cool-down phase. Allow the horse to chew the reins out of your hands, stretch and elongate the top line while maintaining the balance and connection. Reward, and at the end, make evaluations. Be able to articulate what was successful and what wasn't successful and why. What could you do during the next ride on the horse? And create a long-term plan based on those assessments. During your ride, continually evaluate the relaxation level. Look for signs of a relaxed horse. Does the horse move with free, even steps, swing through the back? Is the horse loose in the pole, quietly, gently chewing on the bit and swallowing? Can the horse be equally positioned and bent right and left? Does the horse chew the reins out of the hands correctly? Can the horse be driven forward on long or given reins? Does the horse occasionally snort? Does the horse allow a supple rider to sit comfortably? Does the horse carry the tail straight and swinging like a pendulum? And these are the main ways we can look to assess and identify areas that need improvement in our dressage horses.
Kate, awesome
Yeah, I mean,
job.
that sounds good. My question is just, how do we assess whether there's a problem or it's a miscommunication? Because everybody rides a little differently. So if I get on Reese's horse, for instance, I know that that's probably a pretty correctly trained horse, but maybe he's not responding to my aids as if I was Reese. I mean, how do we figure out whether that's, that might be my mistake and not the horse's mistake, even though the training would be very similar? How do we figure that out during a ride?
Well, I think it's always important to allow yourself a period of time to adjust to a new horse. And to allow a horse to adjust to you. For example, my husband is also a professional rider, and he's built quite differently than I am. So even though we ride, I think, in a very similar system, sometimes there's miscommunication simply because his leg is inches below where my leg would be. And so sometimes there is a period where the horse maybe needs to adjust to the fact that the leg comes in a different place, or the weight aid maybe is applied a little bit differently related to different proportions of the rider. But I think regardless of whether it's a training issue or a miscommunication, addressing it is going to help you identify whether the horse will allow a rider to simply get with the program.
No, I like that, and you're right. I mean, Kate, you have the luxury for sure to put Martin on, because he is quite tall, and you're not small, but you're not. There's a big difference for you guys. So I think even having the practice for the horses doing that change is really important. And I love this lecture. One of the reasons I loved this lecture when you gave it a couple of weeks ago was how systematic your thinking is, and how you're training people to think in a systematic approach and a systematic way of trying a horse. Or in trying a horse, or even riding a horse on a daily basis. You have a warm-up phase, you have a working phase, and you have a cool-down phase. And I loved how you talked about watching the signs for relaxation. And one of the things that I liked was you talked about the horse chewing the bit, but you also talked about the horse swallowing. Can you talk about the importance of that?
Sure. This is really become an issue in an era where it's quite a fad to make the noseband very, very tight. And when the noseband is tightened to a point that the horse can't swallow, it's impossible for the horse to relax his jaw in that moment. And so I think we're looking to see, that the horse has the ability to chew and can relax the jaw. And if the noseband, particularly when you're trying a horse, if the noseband is so snug that the horse can't swallow, you're going to find that the horse won't give such a good feeling in the hand. And sometimes when you're maybe looking at a horse to buy, it might be interesting to loosen the noseband to see what's going to happen. Is the horse going to have a mouth issue that comes out when the noseband isn't as tight?
I just wanted to ask a little bit about the opposite problem to that. Maybe if you're riding a horse and that the noseband may be a little bit too loose, and then the mouth is opening, would you go ahead and tighten that up right away, or have a discussion with the rider, or try and figure out the issue, or how would you address that maybe?
I would definitely have a discussion, depending on the situation. If you're a professional, maybe giving a clinic, or someone comes to your place for the first time, have a discussion about that and make adjustments on trying a horse in a situation where you're looking at maybe to purchase the horse. It would be important information to know, does the mouth get quieter when the noseband is not so loose? And I think it's a difficult question to answer, how tight versus how loose, because there are many people that are on sort of opposite ends of the spectrum. Some where the noseband is so loose it's window dressing, and the horse is able to really evade the contact of the bit, which is not good either. So I think I would have a discussion to ask why that maybe is the case, that the rider has the noseband very loose, and then I would make an adjustment and see, how does the horse accept that.
So I have a question for you both, and I think just checking the tack is really important, especially if you do go on to purchase the horse. I think it's really important to write down, the size of the bits. If you can get the bits, even better. What size saddle. Try to minimize. If you do go ahead and buy that horse, keep an eye on that. Look at it and make an assessment. Hopefully, if you're buying the horse in the United States, you can talk to the trainer. But sometimes, if you buy a horse in Europe, you'll never see that trainer again, and you have no idea. So I think that that's a really, really good point. But I have a question for you both. When you're trying a horse for the first time, are there any pet peeves or anything that you both would say, no way, I'm not buying that horse? Kate, what do you think?
I think it's a very interesting question, and I think the before we get to an answer, we have to back up. Who is the horse for? And so there are certain things for certain people that would immediately turn me off. For example, recently I helped a student purchase a horse. She needed a horse that would give her confidence and that she could feel safe on, but also that had a good forward intention. She had historically had horses that were not so easy to get in front of the aids, and I wanted to find something for her that she could get a feeling of a forward intentioned horse that was also reliable and safe, that she could feel confident on that horse. So if I was looking for a horse for her, it would immediately turn me off if I saw the horse do something that was more than she could handle, or gave me the impression that the horse might not be as settled in the mind or relaxed as she would need. Going against the leg would be something that would be really a turnoff for me, for most any rider. And sometimes I think you have to ask, what's the history? How has the horse been ridden? Because sometimes it's an issue that maybe you feel like can be addressed and easily remedied. But I personally want to see a horse that is good off the leg, whether that's for me or for a student. I think that's a really important quality, that the horse has an easy manner in terms of getting in front of the aids.
Philip, how about you?
Yeah, when we're speaking in just generalizations about horses and stuff, I really, for myself and for students and things, I really like a horse that wants to stretch to the bit and really get out to the contact and use their top line a little bit. And I want to steer a little bit away from the horses that are a little bit just tight in the back or tight in the top line and are tough to just get out to the bit a little bit, on all levels, of these horses, because it's a lot easier to get a horse a little shorter in general than it is to get a horse that's short and just doesn't quite get out there. No matter how they're, sometimes sometimes they're trained to be a little bit short, and it's nothing to do with the not to say it's bad training or it might be conformationally, but I think just with all the horses I've ridden and I've dealt with, I just prefer one that would, is on a tendency towards the stretching a little bit too long and maybe even a little bit too low, than one that's going to be short and high and maybe a little quick in the rhythm. So, just in general, there's lots of things that I say, okay, I'm not going to go anywhere near that horse sort of thing, but that's just one that I can think of at the moment. So it's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always a question, and I think you both hit it. For me, you got to assess who you're also purchasing the horse for. But one that rings a bell for me is when Philip and I were in Europe a few weeks ago. I rode a horse. It was a 4-year-old, and the rider rode the horse, and then I rode the horse, and I really liked the horse a lot. And Philip got on him and just absolutely. So it had been 3. He'd been lunged. He had been ridden by the rider. He'd been ridden by me, and we put a third person on him. And Philip just ever so slightly touched him with the whip. And man, did that sucker double barrel kick. And Philip looked at me and said, I'm done. I'm off. But it was good, though. I mean, we put that horse under a lot of pressure. And this is a horse for me. But Philip's like, no way. And he got off. And I was like, okay, no problem. So I think that's sort of what.
That was just a reaction thing. I mean, if we're talking about that specific horse, I mean, if it's one of those things, and we talked about it a lot because it was a really superstar horse and hadn't had the youngish horse and hadn't had the best training, but and just generally, if you just I didn't even really offend him or anything, but it just gave him a tap and he both back legs right out the back. He nearly, stopped on his front leg sort of thing. I just thought, yeah, I don't really like that. That's not when you ask somebody of a horse, and even if he doesn't know, you want him to have a certain reaction, like, oh, I'm going to try. And that one was just like, how dare you touch me with a whip? And I just thought, that's tough to get around. That says something a little bit about the mentality of that horse. And really, he went well and did everything he was asked. There was just a little piece of tension in there, and I just tapped the horse. Well, just see what's going to happen, right? We're testing the horse. What's going to happen when I tap on the whip? And it just really a very rude reaction. So
yeah, and I thought it was go ahead.
Yeah,
I think that brings up an important point, which is getting to the heart of going back to the mentality of the horse, and especially when so much of what we do is long term and demanding of the horse. That when you have a horse that starts off saying, "I don't really want to work for you, I don't really want to try," it's a long journey, even with the most talented horse. If they don't come out with the desire to try, you never know what happens. Versus for me, give me a horse maybe with a little bit less talent and a really good ethic. You can do a lot to the training to develop the gaits and develop the horse's ability for the work. But the most talented horse without a desire to try is just a sad state of affairs.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. And I think that this is such a topic that even you can see as trainers we talk about this all the time, because it's hard. You have to make an assessment on a horse, especially a sales horse or horse you're purchasing. You usually have 2 rides on that horse, and so it's that's why I loved Kate's lecture and discussion, because she goes at it a very systematic approach, and I think that is so important and one that all of us can use. So, Kate, I really appreciate your time, and we could talk about this for another hour. But thank you so much for your time. How do our listeners find you online?
Through our website, starwestonline.net.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Kate. We can't wait to have you back on.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Dr. Rose's Remedies Skin Treatment Salve and Spray are 100% all-natural products. They are anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, antiviral, and antifungal. Dr. Rose's are made with all human-grade ingredients and are safe and effective for treatment for all manner of cuts and scrapes on your horse. And Dr. Rose's is the must-have product here at the Horse Radio Network headquarters to keep PT Scooter's delicate white pasterns free from dew poisoning and scratches. Ask for Dr. Rose's at your local tack store or feed supplier, or visit them online at drrosesremedies.com. That's drrosesremedies.com.
Well, those were great interviews, and I hope everybody enjoyed Kate. She's really a great personality and a really wealth of knowledge, so that was lots of fun to hear that lecture again. So, Philip, we have some really exciting news from Total Saddle Fit.
Yeah, well,
can you tell us about that?
Yeah, okay, no problem. I mean, I think this week we're going to do Total Saddle Fit Trainer Tip of the Week, but we have a new, I guess it's a contest announced by Total Saddle Fit that if everyone wants to send in their questions about saddle fit to Justin, I mean, he's been on the show before. You can listen to him. He's come on a couple of shows, but he said that he would like to do a best question of the month this month to promote Total Saddle Fit and their awesome shoulder relief girth. And so the best question of the month, if you guys send them in email or on our Facebook page or however you want to get your question in, we're going to pick one.
And you have to email us, right? You have to email Philip or I or both of us.
Yeah. You can always email Justin. He's great at answering, but we're going to bring the question onto the show. So we're going to pick the best question, and we'll get Justin to answer it for us. And then the winner of the best question, will get a free Total Saddle Fit shoulder relief girth, which is a great promotion. It's an awesome girth. If you have a horse with some girthing issues, it's great. And if you don't, I'm sure they'll appreciate a really nice, well-made, very good quality girth that you can order your size, whatever size that your horse takes, and we'll mail it to you. So that's
Exactly.
awesome. Cool. Huh?
So it's either email Philip at horseradionetwork.com or me, Reese, at horseradionetwork.com. And we will go through the questions, and we can't wait to give away a girth. That'll be so fabulous.
Yeah, I mean, and if we get enough questions, we'll just have Justin on for however long it takes, 20, 30 minutes.
Exactly.
We'll still answer the questions, but we just like to pick, one best question, I think something that, everybody can relate to, in saddle fitting or girth fitting or, kind of tack fitting in general that we can get to. So I think that's a cool idea by Justin and awesome for our listeners. So let's get those questions rolling in.
I love it. Well, we have our total saddle fit tip of the week. So Philip, what are we talking about tonight?
Well, today I want to talk. I know that we've been doing the show for about 2 years, right? And we've covered a lot of topics, So sometimes it's tough for us to come up with new ideas and new topics. But I think I'd like to get back to improving the canter. A couple more tips. Well, I'm sure we've given tips before about improving the canter, but hopefully we can come up with something new today because basically over the weekend I was teaching quite a bit. And it's tough, it's tough to improve the canter or even really be able to evaluate whether your canter is a good enough canter for the level that you're doing. So I was hoping today to come on and talk to you, Reese, about improving the canter and your ideas and exercises and things that would maybe help our listeners.
Sure. Yeah, no, I think we talked about it too. We both were talking about working on pirouettes with our riders and making and improving the canter and keeping the canter in the pirouettes. And that's sort of where this came from, this discussion. And I think the canter, just starting basically, when you're picking out a horse, canter is the gate that you want to have a good canter, ideally.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, as you move up through the levels, the trot becomes, everybody loves a big fancy trot, but the trot actually becomes less important because you can adjust it so much. And then when we're talking about, Grand Prix, you have very little trot to do in the test. Collect a trot. Right. It's mostly piaffe passage and a ton of canter if you think about it. So this is where it's so important, and it's a lot harder to adjust the canter than it is the trot gate. So. This is where, if you're evaluating a horse, you're buying a horse, or you're just sitting on a horse. Is that Penny?
That was Penny. It's my mom's dog. Yes. Sorry, everybody.
Then you're just really looking at the canter quite a bit. So when you're looking at a canter, Reese, what are we looking for?
So we want a 3-beat canter. That's a really big, important thing. Rhythm is always, rhythm is, the first, the base of the scale of training. And so rhythm is a big deal. So one of the things with rhythm is you want to make sure that you have a 3-beat canter. A 4-beat canter, it's tricky. A 4-beat canter really, a lot of times, mostly shows that the horse is behind the aids. So you've got to make sure that you have a 3-beat canter.
Yeah,
so that's a big one.
And even if you're sitting on the horse for the first time, try to adjust the canter a little bit, and see that it maintains its 3-beat rhythm as you're trying. I mean, it depends on the level of the horse, but even a 3-year-old, you can try and send it forward or bring it back without losing that rhythm. Because if you have rhythm loss, it's very difficult to correct. So that's a good tip.
Yeah, so that's number one. And kind of assessing, we were talking about assessing dressage horses today as well. And so that's my biggest thing is, if you ever sit on a horse and you try a horse and it's got a 4-beat canter, be careful. So that is a big one. So the next thing with building the canter is, again, it's strength, right? I think we talk about strength a lot on on our program on how to build strength and how to keep strength. And I think with the canter, a ton of transitions, forward and back, huge. That's a really, really big and important thing. And I think with the canter, we both, Philip and I, use an exercise called the miles per hour exercise, and I love it. Use it in the trot as well. But, when you're cantering along, just say, okay, this is my 10 mile an hour canter. And then say, okay, I'm going to punch it up to 12 miles an hour. Maybe you want to then go to 14 miles an hour. Once you get to those certain stages and levels, you should be able to maintain those levels. And then you should be able to maintain it the other way. So if you have a 10-mile-an-hour canter, then you need to have an 8-mile-an-hour, then a 6-mile-an-hour. Again, those are super important to sort of maintain those and be able to really collect the horse, keep them active, keep that 3-beat rhythm, and be able to collect and make the canter not cover as much ground. So that's an exercise that we use a lot. How about you, Philip?
Yeah, and today looking at some horses, just like I said over the weekend, once you've established being able to get the horse, roundish or on the bit, or however you want to say that, in a correct frame and a good correct connection and contact, what happens a lot in the canter is that the horses have a tendency to get too low in the pole and land on the front legs more than if the horse has never learned to be round. They're using that roundness and connection of the frame to actually balance too much on the front end. If we're talking about the teeter-totter effect that we want to have in dressage to be able to make them rock a little bit on the hind legs, then this actually goes against that a little bit. So a lot of times when I'm telling the riders to adjust the canter, I have them not worry about how round the horse is, because what's important is that the horse learns to sit a little bit behind and bring the pole up a little bit. Even if the horse isn't as round as the end picture that you want, you have to let that go a little bit as you're teaching the first stages of balancing in the canter and getting the withers, the front end off the ground a little bit, because if the rider is too much holding on to the front end or trying to really keep that round picture that they've established and worked so hard for, if you don't let it go a little bit, then let the horse a little bit long, let the horse raise the pole a little bit, then it's very hard for the horse to get uphill as much as you want them to teach them how to get more and more up, because in the canter more than the trot, it's very hard to get that adjustment towards the hind legs. I found and as I was working this weekend, that's really what I was working on.
Yeah, no, and I think that's really good and really important to remember as you start going to more advanced movements, into the canter half passes or the pirouettes, right? Those are just, and flying changes. Those are actually, they tell you exactly if you have struggling with those movements. Typically, you're struggling with something in the canter, just a basic canter.
Yeah.
So that's also something to kind of keep in mind.
Right. Just look for quality in the rhythm of the gait, and in being able to shorten and lengthen the stride and also the horse a little bit. Moreover, really trying to hold the horse in the right round. The round shape will come when the balance and the energy and a lot of other things are correct. So just kind of, think about that. Think about being able to adjust all things, and not just say, okay, everything has to be in this tight frame. A lot of it can just happen if you kind of let the reins go a little bit and really ride off your seat and work off your seat. So that's something that has come up and that I think is really super duper important. So that's why I wanted to bring it on the show and bring it as a tip this week for our Total Saddle Fit tip.
Love it. Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed the show tonight, and keep your emails and Facebook shout-outs coming. We always love them.
Well, now it's way more worthwhile, right?
Exactly. I was just going to say that.
So, yeah.
Email us those saddle fit questions, because now there's a girth on the line. And Philip and I will pick the best question. No greasing the palms, I'm just going to say. Just good questions.
We look forward. We'll keep it fair.
Yeah, we'll keep it fair. We look forward to everyone sending those in. So sending again to Reese@horseradionetwork.com or Philip@horseradionetwork.com. We'll sort through them and we'll make sure that everybody's questions get answered. And Justin will come back on. He's always a favorite here on the show. So everybody, you can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our website, dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter @Horse Radio. My website is maplecrestfarmky.com, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
You can find me at philipparksequestrian.com, and my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week for allowing us to put on a great show. And don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we'll talk to you soon.